You wake up in the morning, and before you even fully open your eyes, that heavy fatigue hits you like you haven't slept at all. You get out of bed and have to hold onto the wall because that dizziness comes on, that feeling of weakness that seems to suck all your energy away. You go to the kitchen and look at the glucose meter on the counter, that device that's become your daily companion, your relentless judge. You prick your finger one more time, watch the number appear on the screen, and feel your heart sink. 180, 210, sometimes 250. You've cut out sugar, reduced bread, stopped eating white rice. You take your medication every day at the exact time, but those numbers stubbornly keep climbing. And with them comes the real fear of losing your vision, of needing to amputate a finger, a foot, of falling into a diabetic coma like happened to your neighbor. You feel trapped in a no-win situation, a hostage to a disease that advances slowly but never stops. The truth no one tells you is that there's a different path, something that can change these numbers in days, not months or years. If you've made it this far, it's because you're exhausted from living under the constant dominion of diabetes. And I understand every ounce of that exhaustion. That's exactly why I created this channel, to deliver concrete, science-backed strategies that you can put into practice today and see real results. Every week, I share practical methods for blood sugar control with approaches that truly work and transform the lives of those who apply them. If you want to join this community of people who are taking back control of their health and regaining their quality of life, subscribe to the channel now. You deserve access to strategies that genuinely create change. Let's walk this transformation together. Over 37 million Americans are living with type 2 diabetes right now, but less than 30% manage to keep their blood sugar consistently controlled. What I'm about to reveal today completely contradicts what most traditional doctors recommend. There are specific foods, some you probably have in your kitchen right now, that can lower your blood sugar by 40% in the next 6 hours. I'm going to show you a complete ranking of the 10 most powerful foods for controlling diabetes, from least effective to most impressive. And at the end, you'll discover the number one that can literally reverse insulin resistance in weeks. Stay until the end, because what comes last will completely surprise you. What's happening inside your body right now is a silent war. Your cells have stopped responding properly to insulin, the hormone that should open the doors for glucose to enter and generate energy. Imagine your cells as houses with locked doors, and insulin as the key that should open them. In type 2 diabetes, the locks are rusted. The key doesn't work right anymore. The result, glucose circulates in your blood without being able to get where it should. And that's when serious problems begin. This excess sugar in your blood damages the small blood vessels in your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves. That's why 60% of people with diabetes develop neuropathy, that painful tingling in their feet, and 40% end up with serious kidney problems within 10 years. Your pancreas's insulin production starts to decline by an average of 4% per year after diagnosis. Your doctor probably prescribed you metformin, maybe glipizide, told you to lose weight and exercise. But here's the truth. Few people tell you. Over 3 several clinical studies from the last 20 years show that strategic eating has a power equal to or greater than medication for reversing insulin resistance. And reversing, not just controlling, your body wants to return to balance. It just needs the right tools. Number 10, oatmeal. Many people think oatmeal is good for diabetes because of the soluble fiber, and there really is a benefit. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition showed that 3 grams of beta-glucan, the fiber present in oats, can reduce post-meal glucose spikes by 25%. The mechanism is simple. Soluble fiber forms a gel in the stomach that slows down carbohydrate absorption. You'll feel less of that sharp energy spike, followed by the abrupt crash and fatigue. But watch out for the problems. First, oatmeal is still a carbohydrate and contains about 60 grams of carbs per 100 grams. If you don't control your portion, it can make things worse instead of better. Second, instant or highly processed oatmeal loses a lot of its beneficial fiber and becomes almost a fast-absorbing sugar. Third, most people add honey, sugar, bananas, which turns a potentially good meal into a glucose bomb. The cost is low, about $1 to $2 per pound, so it's financially accessible. To work properly, use thick-rolled oats or oat bran, not instant, and limit your portion to 40 grams per meal, always combined with protein and healthy fats like nuts or eggs. Score 3 out of 10 because it helps, but is limited and risky if used incorrectly. Number 9, apple with the skin on. Apples contain pectin, another type of soluble fiber, as well as polyphenols that have a mild antioxidant effect. Research from Ohio State University demonstrated that eating 1 medium apple per day reduced hemoglobin A1C by 0, 3 points over 12 weeks in type 2 diabetics. This is equivalent to about an 8% improvement in overall glycemic control. The pectin in the skin slows gastric emptying, causing glucose to enter the bloodstream more slowly. You'll feel less hungry between meals. However, apples still contain fructose, the natural sugar in fruit, and a medium apple has 25 grams of carbohydrates. If you eat 2 or 3 apples thinking you're doing yourself a favor, you can spike your glucose too high. Another problem, many people peel apples and lose the part richest in fiber and polyphenols. The biggest benefit comes from the skin. The cost is accessible, about $1 to $2 per pound. Always eat them with the skin on, organic if possible to avoid pesticides, and eat no more than 1 per day, preferably as dessert after a complete meal with protein and fat, never on an empty stomach. Score 4 out of 10 because it's safe and affordable, but has a modest effect. Number 8, black beans. Legumes like beans have a low glycemic index and are rich in fiber and plant-based protein. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that replacing white rice with black beans reduced post-meal blood glucose by 35% in diabetic participants. Beans release glucose very slowly because the fiber and protein delay digestion. Additionally, they contain phenolic compounds that appear to improve insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. You'll experience prolonged satiety and more stable energy throughout the day. The challenges here are digestive and practical. Beans cause gas and abdominal discomfort for many, especially if consumed in large quantities. Furthermore, most Americans eat beans with white rice, pasta, or bread, essentially pairing them with other carbohydrates, which negates some of the benefits. If you eat a giant bowl of beans thinking it's fine because it's healthy, it will still spike your blood sugar because beans do contain carbohydrates, about 15 grams per 100 grams cooked. The cost is very low, typically $2 to $4 per pound. To use them correctly, have half a ladle of cooked beans per meal without rice or with a small portion of brown rice, and soak them for 8 hours before cooking to reduce anti-nutrients and improve digestion. Score 4 out of 10. Good, but limited and uncomfortable for many. Before I show you the top 3 options, I want to pause here and ask you a very direct question. What symptom of diabetes scares or bothers you the most in your daily life? Is it that brutal fatigue that prevents you from doing simple things? Is it the fear of losing your vision or needing to amputate a body part? Or is it the frustration of seeing the scale creep up along with your blood sugar, feeling unable to control either? I know you've been facing this alone for a long time. You've tried to follow medical advice, and still, the numbers remain high. Leave in the comments which symptom affects you the most. You can write something like, "The worst for me is the constant tiredness, or the fear of complications, or the lack of control over my blood sugar." When you share this, you're helping thousands of people who read the comments and finally feel understood. You're not alone in this fight. Now, let's continue with the most powerful solutions. Number 7, avocado. This is a game changer because it breaks the rule that diabetics should avoid fat. Avocado is 77% monounsaturated fat, the same kind found in olive oil, and only 2% net carbohydrates after fiber is subtracted. A Mexican study with 120 type 2 diabetics showed that adding half an avocado per day to their main meals reduced fasting blood glucose by 18% and HbA1c by 0, 5 points in 12 weeks. The mechanism is fascinating. The good fat drastically slows stomach emptying, reducing glucose spikes, and at the same time improves cell sensitivity to insulin. Avocado also contains magnesium, a critical mineral that 70% of diabetics are deficient in, and which is necessary for insulin to function properly. You'll notice less hunger, more stable energy, and better control over sugar cravings. The main problem is the cost. Avocados can range from $1.50 to $3. These are $1 each, depending on the season, which can strain the budget. Another detail, avocados are calorie dense, about 160 calories per 100 grams. So if you're trying to lose weight, you need to watch your portion size. To use them correctly, eat half a medium avocado a day, preferably at lunch or dinner mashed with salt and lime, or in salads. Never blend it into a milkshake with milk and sugar. Score 6 out of 10. Very effective but expensive and caloric. Number 6, sardines. Fatty fish like sardines are an omega-3 powerhouse, specifically EPA and DHA, fats that reduce chronic inflammation, one of the main drivers of insulin resistance. A meta-analysis published in Diabetes Care analyzed 18 studies and concluded that regular omega-3 consumption improves insulin sensitivity by an average of 22%. Sardines are also incredibly rich in high-quality protein, about 25 grams per 100 grams, and practically 0 carbohydrates. Protein stabilizes blood sugar and increases satiety. Furthermore, canned sardines and olive oil already come with good fats from the oil, enhancing the effect. You'll notice reduced inflammation, less bloating, and more stable blood sugar throughout the day. The challenges are taste and practicality. Many people dislike the strong flavor and smell of sardines. Also, canned sardines can be high in sodium, which is bad for those with high blood pressure along with diabetes. The cost is moderate, around $1. $53, $0 for a 4 Oz can. To use them right, opt for sardines packed in olive oil, not tomato sauce, which often contains sugar. Eat them 2 to 3 times a week, and if possible, choose lower sodium versions. Rinse them quickly if the sodium content is very high. Score: 6 out of 10. Powerful but limited by acceptance and sodium content. Number 5. Whole pasture-raised eggs. Eggs were demonized for decades because of cholesterol, but today we know they are one of the most complete and beneficial foods for diabetics. An Australian study with 140 type 2 diabetics compared those who ate 2 eggs per day versus those who ate fewer than 2 per week for 12 weeks. The egg group had a 12% reduction in fasting blood glucose and significant improvement in satiety, consuming fewer total calories throughout the day. Eggs have very high quality protein, virtually no carbohydrates, and the yolk is rich in choline, vitamin D, and lutein. Egg protein slows gastric emptying and reduces glucose spikes. Additionally, eating eggs for breakfast can curb carb cravings for the rest of the day. You'll feel less hungry, have more energy, and much more stable blood sugar. The problem people encounter is preparation. Eggs fried in soybean or corn vegetable oil become an inflammatory issue. Another mistake is eating only the whites and discarding the yolk, losing the most valuable nutrients. The cost is very low. A dozen pasture-raised eggs typically costs $5 or $8. To use them correctly, eat 2 to 3 whole eggs per day, always with the yolk, boiled, scrambled, or fried in olive oil or butter, never in vegetable oil. Prefer pasture-raised eggs because they have more omega-3 and less omega-6. Score: 7 out of 10, excellent value for money, but requires proper preparation. Number 4, ground golden flaxseed. Flaxseed is a tiny seed with giant power. It contains a high concentration of lignans, plant compounds that improve insulin sensitivity, and is the richest plant source of omega-3 ALA. A Canadian study published in the British Journal of Nutrition showed that consuming 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed per day for 12 weeks reduced fasting blood sugar by 20% and HbA1c by 0. 7 points in type 2 diabetics. This is equivalent to or better than the effect of some medications. The mechanism involves reducing chronic inflammation, improving the function of pancreatic beta cells that produce insulin, and slowing glucose absorption due to flaxseed's soluble fiber. You'll notice improved bowel regularity, less hunger between meals, and better blood sugar control. The issues are few but important. Whole flaxseed isn't digested and passes right through your system without releasing its nutrients, so it needs to be ground fresh or bought already ground and stored in the refrigerator. Ground flaxseed oxidizes quickly and loses its omega-3 if exposed to heat and light. Another detail: flaxseed can cause gas and discomfort if you increase the dose too quickly. The cost is very low, about $3 to $6 per pound. To use it correctly, grind 2 tablespoons per day in a coffee grinder, or buy it ground and store it in the fridge in a dark container. Add it to plain, unsweetened yogurt, unsweetened smoothies, salads, or soups. Start with 1 tablespoon and gradually increase. Score: 8 out of 10. Extremely effective and inexpensive if used correctly. Number 3, broccoli and cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, cauliflower, red cabbage, Brussels sprouts. All these vegetables contain a compound called sulforaphane, which activates genes related to insulin sensitivity and reduces glucose production in the liver. A Swedish study with 97 obese type 2 diabetics showed that concentrated broccoli extract reduced fasting blood sugar by 10% and significantly improved HbA1c over 12 weeks. Furthermore, these vegetables are incredibly rich in fiber, magnesium, chromium, and vitamin C, all essential for glucose metabolism. Broccoli has only 4 grams of net carbs per 100 grams, meaning you can eat it freely without worry. Sulforaphane also has potent anti-inflammatory action, reducing damage to blood vessels caused by high blood sugar. You'll feel more energy, less bloating, and better digestion. The downsides are taste and digestion. Many people dislike the bitter taste of broccoli, and it can cause gas if eaten raw or undercooked. Additionally, overcooking destroys sulforaphane. The cost is affordable, about $2 to $4 per pound depending on the region. To use it correctly, steam it for just 3 to 4 minutes, don't boil, or lightly saute it in olive oil with garlic. Consume at least 1 large serving, about 7 ounces per day, at lunch or dinner. If you experience a lot of gas, start with smaller portions. Score: 9 out of 10. Incredibly powerful and inexpensive. It only loses points for palatability. Number 2, walnuts. Nuts in general are excellent for diabetes, but walnuts specifically lead the pack in benefits due to their high content of omega-3, ALA, magnesium, and polyphenols. A meta-analysis of 12 studies published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition concluded that consuming 30 grams of walnuts per day, about 7 nuts, reduces fasting blood sugar by 15%, improves insulin sensitivity by 25%, and reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, the leading cause of death in diabetics, by 30%. Walnuts also improve lipid profiles, lowering bad cholesterol and triglycerides. The mechanism involves the combination of healthy fats, fiber, protein, and minerals working together to stabilize glucose and reduce inflammation. You'll notice prolonged satiety, less sugar cravings, and clearer mental energy. The problem is the cost. Walnuts are expensive, between $20 to $30 per pound, which works out to about $0, $50 to $0, $75 per daily 30-gram serving. Another common mistake is eating excessive portions, as walnuts are very calorie dense, about 185 calories in 30 grams. If you overdo it, you can gain weight, which worsens diabetes. To use them correctly, eat exactly 7 walnuts per day, preferably in the morning or as an afternoon snack, always raw and unsalted. Avoid roasted walnuts with oil, as they lose some nutrients and gain empty calories. Score 9 out of 10, extremely effective but expensive. And now we reach number 1, Ceylon cinnamon. If you're enjoying this content so far, hit that like button so more people can find this life-saving information. Cinnamon, specifically the Ceylon variety, not the common cassia you find at the supermarket, contains bioactive compounds called proanthocyanidins that mimic insulin's action in cells. A randomized, controlled Iranian study with 140 type 2 diabetics showed that consuming 3 grams of Ceylon cinnamon per day, about a teaspoon, for 90 days reduced fasting blood glucose by 24%, HbA1c by 0, 9 points, and total cholesterol by 18%. This is equivalent to or better than medications like metformin in many cases. The mechanism is fascinating. Cinnamon increases the sensitivity of insulin receptors in muscle and fat cells, improves glucose transport into cells, and slows down stomach emptying. Additionally, it reduces the activity of enzymes that break down carbohydrates, causing glucose to enter the bloodstream more slowly. The effects are noticeable within 2 to 4 hours of consumption. You'll feel less hungry, have fewer cravings for sweets, and experience more stable energy. Within 2 weeks of continuous use, fasting blood glucose starts to drop. In 4 weeks, you'll notice improved control throughout the entire day. In 8 to 12 weeks, HbA1c, which measures control over the last 3 months, improves significantly. To use it correctly, dissolve 1 scant teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon powder in 200 milliliters of warm water and drink it 15 minutes before breakfast and 15 minutes before dinner, or sprinkle it directly over foods like unsweetened plain yogurt, coffee, or a low-carb fruit salad. Never use common cassia cinnamon because it contains high doses of coumarin, a substance that can be toxic to the liver with prolonged use. Ceylon cinnamon has 250 times less coumarin. The cost is moderate, around $7 to $12 for 100 grams of quality Ceylon cinnamon, and 100 grams yield about 30 servings, so it comes out to less than $1 per day. Possible side effects are rare but include mild stomach irritation if taken on an absolutely empty stomach, so always consume it close to meals. Contraindications. Pregnant women should avoid it because large amounts of cinnamon can stimulate uterine contractions, and people taking anticoagulants should consult their doctor because cinnamon has a mild anticoagulant effect. A score of 10 out of 10, the most effective, accessible, and rapid solution. Now that you know the complete ranking, here's the implementation protocol for maximum results. Start your day by taking 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon dissolved in warm water 15 minutes before breakfast. At breakfast, eat 2 or 3 whole pasture-raised eggs cooked in olive oil or butter, along with sautéed broccoli and 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed mixed into unsweetened plain yogurt. For a mid-morning snack, have 7 walnuts. For lunch, build your plate with half cruciferous vegetables like sautéed broccoli, cauliflower, or red cabbage, a quarter protein like sardines, chicken, or lean red meat, and a quarter complex carbohydrate like black beans, or a small portion of sweet potato. Add half an avocado mashed with salt and lime. For a mid-afternoon snack, have an apple with the skin on, or another 7 walnuts. Before dinner, repeat the Ceylon cinnamon dose. For dinner, repeat the lunch structure. Half vegetables, a quarter protein, and a quarter complex carbohydrate if needed, or eliminate the carbohydrate entirely. Results timeline. Within 2 to 4 hours after the first cinnamon dose and balanced meal, you'll notice less hunger and more energy. In 1 week, post-meal blood glucose will start to stabilize. In 2 weeks, fasting blood glucose will drop between 10 to 20 points. In 4 weeks, you'll feel more energetic, less tired, and will be able to reduce or eliminate compulsive cravings for sweets. In 8 to 12 weeks, HbA1c will improve significantly, and your doctor will be able to consider reducing medication. Approximate total monthly cost, $50 to $80 for all the foods in the protocol, compared to $150 to $400 for medications, doctor visits and treatments for complications of poorly controlled diabetes. Critical mistakes you need to avoid. First, don't take cassia cinnamon thinking it's the same thing. You'll overload your liver and won't get the same results. Always buy Ceylon cinnamon from a trusted source. Second, don't fry eggs in soybean or corn vegetable oil. These oils are inflammatory and will negate the benefits. Always use olive oil, butter, or lard. Third, don't add honey, sugar, bananas, or other fast carbs to your oatmeal or yogurt thinking you're doing yourself a favor. You're sabotaging your glucose control. Fourth, don't eat fruit alone on an empty stomach. Always pair it with protein or healthy fat. Fifth, don't expect results in 2 days and give up on the third. This protocol requires consistency for at least 4 weeks to show its full potential. It's not instant magic. It's applied science that demands discipline. And be aware, never stop or alter your medication without talking to your doctor. As your blood glucose improves with a dietary protocol, your doctor can and should reevaluate dosages. But this must be done under supervision. Your body doesn't want to be sick. It wants to return to balance. It wants your cells to respond to insulin. It wants glucose to go where it needs to go and generate energy. The idea that diabetes is a life sentence, that you'll inevitably get worse with age, is a narrative that needs to be challenged. Previous generations didn't have type 2 diabetes in the proportion we do today because they weren't eating ultra-processed foods 5 times a day, weren't living in constant chronic inflammation, weren't sitting around all day without moving. You have the power to change this story. It's not about blame, it's about responsibility and conscious choice. I challenge you to follow this protocol for 30 full days. No exceptions, no days off. Take a photo of your glucose meter today with your fasting reading. Take another photo in 30 days. Document what you ate, how you felt, and the progression of your numbers. The science behind this protocol is solid, validated by dozens of clinical studies published in the world's top journals. But science only works if you apply it. Start today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes never. Today is the day to take control of your health. Like this video so more people can access this information, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment about your experience with this protocol over the next 30 days. Your story could save the life of someone else going through the same thing. Let's get your health back together.